Substance wins the first Democratic debate. The clear winner in the first Democratic presidential debate was not a candidate seeking the White House but something that was lacking in the two Republican debates: discussion about issues. Hillary Clinton, the frontrunner for the Democratic nomination, Bernie Sanders, the Vermont socialist who is her main rival, and the three other party contenders sparred for 2 hours on everything from capitalism and Wall Street to guns, race, marijuana and immigration. Mrs. Clinton delivered a strong defense of her record as a senator and Secretary of State, while deflecting questions about recent flip-flops on issues such as trade policy by casting her U-turns as shifts that reflected her willingness to evolve. Her performance will reassure supporters who had started to question her campaign as Mr. Sanders has risen in the polls. Mr. Sanders also had a strong evening, promoting the need to reduce inequality and the influence of the billionaires whose money steers politics and policies in the U.S. While he stuck to the messages that have helped him draw large crowds and have provided an unexpectedly strong challenge to Mrs. Clinton, his appearance on the national stage may broaden his appeal. Clinton went into the debate the frontrunner and she came out exactly the same, probably strengthened in that role, said Larry Sabato, a politics expert at the University of Virginia. Sanders went in as the chief challenger and he came out the same, likely reinforced in that role. The American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails. Bernie Sanders. Tweet this quote. The debate was notably different in tone and substance from the first two Republican debates, which were hijacked by the presence of Donald Trump, the real estate magnate who has proven adept at attacking his rivals on personality, but less skilled at discussing policy. The Democrats also gained from the fact that they had only 5 candidates on stage, compared to the 11 participants in last month's Republican debate. Hillary Clinton performed very well, but she really wasn't challenged. It's not a strong field, said Tony Fratto, a former White House official supporting Jeb Bush. The smaller field made for a better debate. Also, it helps that every Democratic candidate has held public office before and can refer to or be quizzed on the record. The 3 candidates leading the GOP field have never held public office and tend to take radical assertions that they never had to test in office. Mrs. Clinton's debate performance could give Joe Biden, Vice President, second thoughts about jumping into the Democratic field. Polls show he would pull the most support from Mrs. Clinton, and he has been seen as an alternative if she is dragged down by questions over her use of a personal email server. For many Americans, it was their first time getting to know Mr. Sanders, whose left-wing credentials shone most when he debated Wall Street reform, an issue that came up several times. Congress does not regulate Wall Street. Wall Street regulates Congress, he said to applause. Mrs. Clinton recently unveiled a plan to clamp down on Wall Street, but it did not go as far as Mr. Sanders, who wants to break up the biggest banks. He supports a reinstatement of the 1930s Glass-Steagall Act, which separated commercial and investment banking but was repealed in 1999. My plan would have the potential of actually sending the executives to jail, and would give regulators the authority to go after the big banks, Mrs. Clinton said. But I am telling you, if you only look at the big banks, you may be missing the forest for the trees. The 2 candidates also disagreed on gun policy. Mrs. Clinton said Mr. Sanders was not tough enough on the need for more gun controls. The Vermont senator voted against a bill to introduce mandatory background checks for gun purchases, although he said his overall stance had caused the powerful National Rifle Association to award him a rating of D-. It was hard for the 3 other candidates to break through, although Martin O'Malley, the former Maryland governor, did the best. He received one of his loudest cheers when he referred to Donald Trump as an immigrant-hating carnival barker in the Republican Party. Jim Webb spent much of his time complaining that he was not getting enough airtime. When candidates were asked which enemy they were most proud of, he mentioned a soldier who had thrown a grenade at him during the Vietnam War. Lincoln Chafee repeatedly stumbled in his answers, including blaming his vote to repeal Glass-Steagall on the fact that it was his first one in the Senate. "What does that say about you that you're casting a vote for something you weren't really sure about?" asked Anderson Cooper, one of CNN's moderators. In one of the evening's most memorable moments, Mr. Sanders ended up coming to Mrs. Clinton's rescue on her most vulnerable issue, her email scandal. The revelation that she used a personal email address on her private server while she was Secretary of State has dogged her for months and cost to her once formidable poll numbers. Mrs. Clinton again acknowledged it was a mistake but said she should be judged on her wider experience. But Mr. Sanders' passionate denunciation of the attention paid to her emails prompted a genuinely warm handshake from Mrs. Clinton. "The American people are sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails," he said to raucous cheers. The Vermont politician was the social media star of the debate when he made the comment. The video of his handshake with Mrs. Clinton was the night's most tweeted moment and had the highest engagement on Facebook. His campaign also leapt into action, sending out a solicitation for donations with the subject line "Your damn emails." Mrs. Clinton's emails ranked fourth on Google's top 5 searches of debate issues behind healthcare, immigration and the economy, and ahead of abortion. Mr. Sanders and Mrs. Clinton together accounted for 80% of the Twitter conversation around the debate, with the remaining 3 candidates each in single digits. The Republican National Committee pointed to focus groups' results as evidence that Mr. Sanders, a man that Republicans believe cannot be elected because of his socialist views, had the better debate. Hillary Clinton may be the strongest debater on the stage she was in 2008, but it was Bernie Sanders that won the hearts and interests of Democrat voters, said Michael Short, an RNC spokesperson. One figure who was not present got more attention than several of the Democrats. Mr. Trump, who spent the evening sniping at the Democrats on Twitter, was mentioned more often in Twitter discussions of the debate than the 3 second-tier candidates. In web searches, the property developer and reality TV star kept pace with Mrs. Clinton according to data from Google Trends, though both trailed behind Mr. Sanders.